Janine, so looking at the future of the fintech industry, over the next 1 to 3 years, where do you think the greatest opportunities are for value in this space?
Thanks, Martin. So I think it's quite indicative to look actually at where the investment went in 2018 in terms of UK fintech investment. We saw more than 1.7 billion US dollars of VC investment come into the UK fintech community. More than 27% of that, so the lion's share, went to the challenger banks. We saw around 19% go to personal financial management tools and wealth managers as well. And then around 18% went to alternative finance in lending as well. And so I think you're seeing really a focus on how fintech and new innovation can impact society for the better and impact the customer and put the customer back at the center of the journey as well.
So it's interesting. So at the heart of this is really an improvement of the services that maybe the traditional finance providers have not been able to achieve. And you see that this is where the greatest opportunity lies. And it's interesting between the challenger banks, which are probably following a similar model, and the more tech-orientated platform providers. Do you see a difference between how these different organizations are approaching the market?
I do, and I think overall we're seeing a shift, or a fundamental shift from the financial services at putting the consumer back at the center. And so that's coming from the fintech community. That's actually forcing the incumbents then to change with that mindset as well. What we're also seeing is actually the incumbents start creating some of their own challenger banks. So if you're looking at RBS and Bow, for example, or Marcus and Goldman Sachs. So that mentality around the customer being the center again has really filtered through all of the different levels of financial services in the UK.
From your discussion with let's say the traditional finance providers, I know from my discussions that they were struggling with the approach that they take with how to bring technology into their organizations. Now there's a difficulty in changing long-established systems, including retraining staff, changing your computer systems. I mean, do you get a sense that there's been a decision amongst those types of organizations to really create new, maybe digital ventures as opposed to trying to modernize the existing structure, or do you think it's more mixed than that?
I think it's mixed, but I think there is the appetite to create more of a digital center. It's interesting because Innovate Finance we launched about 5 years ago, and the transformation of fintech, or the maturation of the sector, has been phenomenal. So the dialogue around fintech 5 years ago was very much more on the disruptive basis, looking at the fintechs and the startups eating the bank's lunches, and that dialogue and that conversation has moved on so significantly that now it very much is about partnership and this idea of how can the incumbent financial institutions, the legacy systems, work with the startups, bring some of that new technology in-house, and how can they transform both their customer-facing products, but then also looking at the middle and the back office.